Hi, welcome to Splash Page. I'm Andrew, and as always, with me is Sean. Hi, Sean. How's it going?
It's going great, man. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm super psyched because we just got to watch the first 3 episodes of The Legend of Vox Machina. And I'm a big fan of the D&D Critical Role stream. I've been watching it. I realized in early 2020 I somehow had a lot of extra time and ended up watching all 370-something hours of
Wow.
Campaign 1 and then the similar amount of 2. But Campaign 1 was amazing, and now they finally got it on the air, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, unlike you, I was not very familiar with the stream and
Right.
them playing the game. Obviously, you and I play Dungeons and Dragons and have for the last year plus.
Yep.
So I'm familiar with that. I did watch a handful of episodes kind of almost by mistake. I was looking for ways to be a dungeon master when we first started playing and stumbled upon a few of their campaigns.
Yeah.
However, just by the conversations that we've been having, and then obviously the fact that we do this YouTube channel and you bringing up the Legends of Vox Machina and the potential it has as a show, I jumped in head first and absolutely love it.
Awesome. I think they match their potential almost exactly, too. A lot of times when you transfer something from one medium to another, you get a little worried they might do something right or wrong or screw it up. I think they hit it on the nose because this has always been a creator-controlled content. Like, it's them doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it feels like, I don't know, to me at least, it feels like watching this become a reality, like watching your good friend become really successful. I know I had nothing to do with it, but I feel like I've been there, and it just feels like good for them that they're doing this. It feels like a small-time group, just like the local boy does good kind of thing. It's very strange, even though I
Yeah.
came to it late.
Yeah, and it's awesome too because obviously these people are extraordinarily talented in their field, and their field happens to be voice acting.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're voice acting characters that they made up in a cartoon makes this probably one of the most authentic experiences you can have watching
Yeah.
a unique piece of content. Yeah, and that being said, like the episodes and the animation and the pacing are all fantastic.
Which is surprising for 23 4-ish hour-long episodes knocked down into about an hour and a half.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things I absolutely loved about the show is we get that 3 episode upfront drop, which
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of shows do. We've seen Invincible, Why the
Mhm.
Last Man, countless others. And these guys,
Arcane.
very similar to Invincible, really hit it out of the park with their ability to set up the world, set up the characters, and then leave us on a big enough cliffhanger where we're like, oh man, I need more of this.
Yeah, this is really well done, really well paced. Adult animation done really well. So here's what I loved about it too. They were able to keep the story clear enough for people that have never seen it, and yet put enough, like, I'm not going to say Easter eggs, but like in jokes for the people that have watched the entire stream. So I know you haven't watched it, so I wanted to go through a couple of those quick little in jokes that were a big part of watching it live. Well, not live, but watching the recorded live stream when I caught it. So there was, I don't know if you noticed the moment when they had to unlock the door to the castle.
Yep.
And a couple of them, it was very Dungeons and Dragons. Hey, what if I try to use a
Totally.
magic spell? What if I try to pick the lock? What if I try to melt it? But then I don't know if you also connected that to the scene at their keep where they couldn't get out of the kitchen and had to burst through the door. Campaign 1 was full of door puzzles that were surprisingly hard for the team, to the point that they considered one of their biggest enemies to be doors. They had so much trouble getting through doors. It was insane.
That's awesome. And I didn't know that Easter egg or that little nod
Of
to
course,
the actual
yeah.
recording of it. However, you're totally right. That lock incident was hilarious to me because of how many times when we're playing, it's like, all right, I'm going to try to pick the lock and I roll and I don't roll high enough. Okay, well, I'm going to try to hit it with the axe, and then that person doesn't roll high enough.
Somehow
so you just
misses a wall. Yeah.
keep stepping next, then just finally figuring out how to open a
To
stupid
the point
door.
where someone says, "Did we try pushing it?"
Have we tried just turning the handle?
Yeah. Yeah, so there was that. There were a couple other things. There was, in the Gilmore's Glorious Goods, when they went through the magic shop, there was a moment, did you see where Pike, the cleric, saw the book? There was a book he magically put away, and that was called...
Yep, I even wrote that down.
Yeah, that was
Tusk
called
Love?
Tusk Love. That was something that came up a bunch in the second campaign. The characters from that campaign ended up running into that book and buying it and bringing it up over and over, and just... Anytime there was a book, someone would mention Tusk Love. So that's where that came from. That was like in campaign 2. They were like, well, what books are on the wall? And Matthew Mercer had to, off the top of his head, come up with a handful of titles, and that happened to be one of them.
Fantastic.
So that was where Tusk Love came from. Also, there was the moments in the Dragon's Lair when they're fighting the dragon in the pile of treasure. One of the things that Scanlan finds is a troll dick. He goes, is this a troll dick?
Yeah.
Pre-stream, I don't remember how they got it, but they just kept mentioning, like, I don't even know why, but I have a troll dick in my bag of holding. So that they were just carrying that around with them most of the campaign for some reason or another.
Well, I caught one more.
Yeah.
And it's solely based on just kind of looking at the characters and the voice actors. In episode 3, when they are handing in their weapons before the ball or before the dinner, and we see the coat check guy for the weapons, and he looks exactly like the Dungeon Master.
Yeah. No, I missed that actually on the first go-through, but that is spot on. Also, during the dragon fight, there was like a couple frames, I don't know, during an explosion that was just a giant D20 on screen.
Oh, I think I noticed that too. It was like a subconscious thing. You saying that reminded me of it.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool.
That was great, yeah. And also, before we go too far outside of kind of what the show, the confines of the narrative was, there were a few things they did that I thought were just awesome. The first one with that fun misdirect at the very beginning where we see this other crew.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that.
Mercenaries or and they instantly kill them. Very Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
Or even kind of the end of Invincible where you think you know what this story is about and it instantly just is like, nope, that's not what this is about. So, I thought that was fantastic.
I wanted to ask you about that actually because I was curious, having not watched the stream yourself, if for any moment you thought that was Vox Machina before they were just obliterated.
So I didn't because I watched the trailer and all that
true.
stuff.
That's
so I was very
point.
familiar with what our characters would look like.
That's a very good point.
But I wouldn't be surprised if a handful of people are kind of quickly surprised by that beginning. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic. It really sets up stakes, kind of, because as we all know, it's Dungeons & Dragons. People could come back from death. Not those guys. Right. They got no one to get them back, but...
The other things that I thought were fantastic is obviously the relationships between the characters. Yeah. We're getting nods to their history and their backstory. And you do see, we know that there's a brother and sister. We know that Grog and Pike are kind of buddies from a long time ago. And it's just cool to see these kind of pre-existing relationships. And now, granted, most shows attempt to give you this feel.
Right.
But in this show, you really do feel that these characters are connected from a shared history.
Well, I think that goes into these guys have known each other forever and have been friends and co-workers, professional co-workers, and they played 370-something hours of this game as these characters together on air, and they were playing a home game before it. So they're well over 400 or 500 hours in these characters' minds with each other. So I think that's a lot of how that came to be so amazingly well done.
Yeah, that was great. And I also love, straight up front, as soon as you see that misdirect, we then cut to our main characters, and that little montage is absolutely outrageous. It's not even a montage. That little scene is absolutely outrageous. I think you get, first of all, they're getting drunk. They're getting in a bar fight. There are sex jokes. There's violence, there's puking, there's public urination, there's cutting off limbs, there's cartoon boobs.
Yeah.
There's a bear named Trinket. I mean, right away I knew that this show was for me. And the adult level of this show is up a whole nother level from a lot of the other quote unquote adult cartoons
Agreed.
and adult animation.
Agreed. I will say I believe this to be the first cartoon to effectively use the word taint raisin.
We haven't done full research yet,
No.
but when we do, we will confirm.
There might have been a short in the 30s Steamboat Willie episode, but
yeah. So do you want to jump into kind of some of the fights and some of the weapons and what the crew did to get by?
yeah, we've got all the teamwork and the fighting and the magic and the frightened running that you would see in a D&D game that you don't normally see in a heroic cartoon, which I love. We also have the fight at the end with Delilah and Silas Briarwood, which is going to set up our next arc into the Briarwood campaign that I'm super excited about. So this first arc covered something we didn't get to see in the stream, and the second arc skips the first part of the game, but this gets into an amazing moment. The sword that Silas had, I got very excited when I saw that. There'll be some, I'm not going to call it minor spoilers, but you can see that sword drinks blood and eventually grows during the fight. That was a sword in the game called Craven Edge that as it strikes someone, you have to roll a constitution save. If you fail, it takes strength off of you and adds it to the wielder. So that's, once that hits a certain level, it actually grows and deals more damage. That was exciting to see.
That is cool. Yeah. It's great to see, again, like the connection to, D&D in the sense that specifically in that scene where Vax, I believe, is the man, right? Vax is the half-elf?
Yes.
Okay. So where Vax is on his deathbed, bleeding out, and we have Pike run up to him, who is obviously the healer of the group, and try to use her magic to heal him. And the way they kind of articulate this in the show is she's kind of begging her power to work. And the reason for that is because in Dungeons & Dragons, you can have that power, you can have that spell, but if you don't roll high enough, it's ineffective or not as effective or whatever it may be. So I love the fact that they're making it so she can't just use this power whenever.
I think that also goes to spell slots, because you can't just continuously use certain spells, and it would be weird to say, I've already done it 3 times today, I can't do it again. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said she was tired after doing it to Grog after fighting the dragon, and that's why she couldn't help save the young child. And then here she is trying to do it again, and she's like, let's see if this works. Really cool, really fun, and a great nod to Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it was fun to watch.
Quick question for you before with Scanlan. What's the purple hand?
That is Bigby's hand, which is a D&D spell. Like, it's a mystical hand that could come out and kind of move things or slap things around. I don't think they're calling that. I think they're calling it Scanlan's hand in the show because they can't or don't want to use that word from the D&D books.
Yeah, it was very cool. And in the animation, I love the way it looks. And it's kind of a badass power, to be honest.
Speaking of the animation and a storyline I almost forgot, what were your thoughts on Percy's mystical shadow?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. So, was he releasing a toxin into the air? Was that going to be another character not another character, it's obviously him, but like another being that he can control that comes out of him?
I don't want to say anything too much because to spoil for the next week.
Spoilers.
But I will say that was one of the most iconic lines of the whole first season when in a fury, Taliesin, who played Percy, lost track of the Briarwoods and just shot a man in the street and said the phrase, "Your soul is forfeit." And the rest of the team, and I think the rest of the actors, were a little freaked out. They're like, what just happened?
I mean, you gotta love they get that into their characters. I mean, we barely use our characters' voices. And these guys are actually getting so pissed off. They're saying badass one-liners.
He was furious.
Like,
he blurted out, "Your soul is forfeit," and the rest of the team just like took him aside and like, "Percy and Taliesin, are you all right?" So that was fun. I was glad to see that in there. So that's basically the show. I mean, we're not going to go point by point through the show because anyone that's seen it has seen it. It's a pretty straightforward fantasy cartoon, right? I did have a couple questions for you. Oh, how did you feel in the moment in the dragon fight when Grog just started running up for that final death blow and screamed, "I would like to rage"?
Yeah, so that's a great question because that is something that definitely stood out to me. First of all, it was awesome. I mean, he totally hulked out and went nuts, barbarian style.
Absolutely.
But I would imagine it has to do with some kind of berserker attack or something that Grog either has in the D&D game or based on his character development has this ability to rage and gain strength or gain hit points. Is that
in the
accurate?
gameplay as a barbarian he can rage, but at the same time, like when he got X amount of rages per day, and whenever he used them he would say, "I would like to rage," to the point where it became a battle cry and he would just scream it in excitement. And it came up so often during the game that it would be hard to do this show without using it. And at the same time, I was curious how that looked to someone that didn't watch him use it in the show. Because it is kind of meta. It doesn't really fit in the world, but you need it there for anyone that's spent any time with the stream.
Yeah, for me it totally played.
Right,
I loved it. I love the Grog character. I think it even fits with kind of his mental capacity or stability or whatever it may be. So the fact that he said, "I would like to rage," is totally works. But I do love the fact that it actually is because it is what he says when
that
playing.
Became a battle cry, and constantly that would get everyone at the table all excited to kind of pump them up for this match. So that was really cool to see. Also, I was curious, this is out of context, but the dragon fight where they create the illusion, I don't know how they would have created that illusion with in-game tactics. I know this has nothing to do with the show, and the show made it work perfectly, because you get to see those characters as they are, even though they're an illusion, right? And how they could interact, or sometimes do interact. But I was curious if you know, or if anyone else watching this could comment, how they might have made that illusion work with D&D constraints. Because the closest I could come would be either a minor illusion with thaumaturgy voice throwing, or a major illusion, but I don't think you could create multiple illusions with those. So I'm not sure how they might explain that if we had to stick to D&D rules, which obviously we don't.
Yeah, I guess that's the point, right? We don't need to stick to those rules. However, I know what you mean. So maybe in the game when they actually played this, Scanlan only projected himself on the other side.
That's a good point.
I know the bards have all these crazy powers, but for the show, put the whole team over there. It looks better. It makes it a little bit more fun, and really you're expecting some kind of twist. So the fact that they're all illusions.
Yeah, no, I think that worked out real well. And final question, favorite character in Vox Machina, favorite team member?
Ooh. It's still early, and I kind of had an initial gut reaction, but then I figured out who I think my favorite character is. My initial gut reaction was between Percy and Grog. I think those two they're just kind of further away from the group than the rest. Obviously, Grog is a huge kind of dummy, but so lovable. And then Percy was quiet, a little bit more sophisticated, and really down to earth. So I was leaning toward those. But then after finishing the 3 episode, I think my favorite is Pike.
Yeah.
She's just always in like the middle of things. She's asking the important questions. One of the people that's really about doing good and trying to push the crew in the right direction. So I'm going to go my favorite character.
She is definitely I was going to say moral center, but only scrap of morality in the team. There's no other morality in that team without Pike.
What about
Which,
you?
by the way,
Who's
Pike
your,
wasn't even in
favorite?
the stream for a lot of it because she was in and out filming TV shows. So they had to come up with reasons for her not to be there. But I feel like she'll be here the whole time. It's tough for me not to say Scanlan just because... I don't know, but honestly, I love Scanlan in the show, but I think I loved him better on the stream because he was more like in the moment and improv, like just kind of making people laugh. I think it's a tough call. I've watched so much of this. It's tough to say that one of them. I honestly do love Vax also, the rogue. Yeah, okay. He's amazing. All right, I think that's it for the first arc of The Legend of Vox Machina, episodes 1 through 3. We got to see some fighting against dragons, and maybe we'll see some more.
Yeah, and again, tell all your friends about this show. I cannot say how excited I am.
Please watch this show so that they get 3, 4, a million seasons.
Yeah, no more Kickstarter stuff. Like, just let someone pay for this.
The end of, like, the middle, there's so much good further on in this storyline that I would love to see animated from different points in the arc and and the ending is so satisfying if we ever get there. Who knows if we will, but it's such a satisfying ending to this whole story. Yeah, I really hope it keeps going on.
Great. So, thanks everyone. Let us know who your favorite character in the group is. And if you think you can
figure out how they made that image of the dragon's lair. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. If you know any of the spells that they used throughout, please let us know what they were.
All right. Until next time. Bye.
Take it easy, YouTube.